invite Markus to come up to the stage. Markus has kindly donated his time this afternoon to answer any of your questions on any kind of ideas you have for growth hacking your own website, or if you have any kind of challenges growing your site. But first, before we do that, we have an award for Markus for his excellence in entrepreneurship. And everybody give Markus a big round of applause. So I have a microphone, and I'll come around to you. If you have a question for Markus, please ask the question into the microphone, and then Markus will do his best to answer the question. We have about a half hour for a Q&A, okay? Thank you.
So maybe I'll just say a few words about growth hacking. So one of the ways I built the site initially was every 5 minutes I record every course stat in the system. So I'd record how many people logged in today. I'd record how many people signed up today. And one of the keys is to measure how that changes over time. So if you have 1,000 signups today and 50% of them return next week, that's a really good thing. And you want to measure how that does over time. So let's say you change something randomly on the site, and all of a sudden, if you have 1,000 new signups today, all of a sudden only 400 of them return the following week. You've done something wrong, you need to go back and fix it. And this happens constantly. Now earlier we were talking about email marketing. And let's say that you send out, let's say you got 1,000 people signing up to email marketing list a week. But your unsubscribe rate suddenly climbs to 100 a week for no reason, or 200 a week for your new users. So you have to measure constantly, like, is it the content of the emails that you're sending out? Is it the way you structure the emails? Did you do some kind of redesign? Did you do anything that would change that ratio? And, although Plentyoffish is pretty big now, the vast majority of how we grow, and most companies, large tech companies are growing, is you're just measuring absolutely everything every day and seeing if there's differences. Anyways, I guess we'll open up to questions now. Like I said before, it's constantly measuring everything and adopting to change really quickly. So, first it was all about the web, but the web for us is pretty much dead now. About 2 years ago, we were 10% mobile. Today, under the age of 35, that's climbed to 85, 90% mobile. So for us, the web is like developing for the BlackBerry, like 2 or 3 years ago. It's most of the competitors in our industry have stopped actually developing for the web. It's just on maintenance mode now. So it's the constant changing. It's seeing what the new trends are and building for use cases. So, if your users are using online dating on their cell phones, that's where all the future dating will be. So you have to build for the use case. You can't just build, we're going to have an awesome website and we're going to have online dating on our website. That just doesn't work anymore because the users have transitioned. What we do is we measure. So when you leave the site, we ask who you left in a relationship with. When we have matching pairs, we have all the attributes of the female and the male side. And we have the hundreds of questions that you took throughout why you were on the site, all this user behavioral data. And we can tell exactly who entered into a relationship with who, and then we can use that data to predict who else will enter into a relationship with who. But on top of that, we can also predict the breakup rates and which attributes lead to divorces, breakups, all the rest of it. Because 30-40% of people come back and sign up again. So we have tremendous amounts of data, and we use it to find the best matches for you and actually match you with people that we know you will stay together with. Well, we have offline events. Our users, I think it's 500 events a month are planned by our users, and 40 or 50,000 people a month go to them. But, our core business is we get people to meet online, and we try and get them offline as fast as possible to meet in the real world. So Tinder is, I don't know if you guys remember Hot or Not, but it's basically you vote if they're hot or not, and it's a new app launched by IAC, which owns Match.com and a whole bunch of other Ticketmaster, Expedia, all those things. It's bringing a lot of people to online dating that would normally never use online dating. So I think it's expanding the category, but it's not really.
The engagement isn't there. It doesn't last.
The intent isn't there.
Yeah.
The intent to meet someone and have a relationship isn't there. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. To get early traction, there's no magic formula. What we did is Well, basically, it was a lot of SEO at the very start. So we had 100, 200 users trickle in at the very beginning, and then that exploded into virality. But really what you're doing is every week you're measuring what users do, and you're looking where they drop off, where they fall off, like why are they abandoning your site. And then you're making constant incremental improvements. So you get a 5% gain over here, you get a 10% gain over there, and it really, really adds up. And, even 10, 11 years later now, we're still doing the same thing where we're trying to get incremental gains because it becomes exponential. So, it's not like when you start a business or even when it's growing, you're always making perpetual changes. And it's not like you just flip a switch and all of a sudden, I'm successful now and it's just going to go on forever. It doesn't work that way. Because what's happening is all your competitors are doing the exact same thing. So the moment you slow down is when you fall behind.
Yeah, and I can see how it's pretty incremental. Do you have like a light bulb moment where you just some kind of product insight where you're like, this is something that I should really look more into? I agree it's definitely an incremental thing, but I wonder if there's a tangible kind of like
well, it was back in the day when Google was sending you free traffic, and you could show up behind the search engines. So it was very, we do over 60, 70,000 signs a day now, but back then 100 was pretty good. You use that to gain momentum, and then, so you get them incoming, but then you have to retain them and then get them to tell their friends, and then it sparks virality. Well, we're focusing a lot on mobile because the industry has changed so dramatically, and I don't think that's sorted out yet. Tablets are interesting. It's 10% of use now, so it's nearly as big as the web in many countries. We're basically halfway through this massive transition to mobile, and we're just trying to figure that out before we go on to bigger plans. Because it changes your business model, it changes everything. And it changes the intent and because mobile is a more casual experience, and there's a lot more chatting. It's not like going home to a desktop computer, sitting down and saying, I'm here to date someone, I'm going to use this.
So this is Plentyoffish has made a huge success. Can you share some of your main failure experience? Or if there is any?
Well, it's more like that. For every 10 things we do, 8 of them fail. So you're just constantly trying a bazillion tests, and the vast majority of them will fail or have no impact. So it's not that we embark on, we're not going to go spend 6 months to go build something only to see it fail. We try and do minimum viable product, which is just get something out the door that kind of looks like what you think you want, and if people use it, then you perfect it. Otherwise, you just move on to the next thing. So really, we're all about the lean model and fail fast and just try and pump out as much stuff as possible and see what. My house got fire. Before I had employees, I had over, I think it was 13 million users or something. And then we were serving, I think it was 1 billion images, every week or something. And I was custom building all the servers and the hardware, and it just got to a point where I no longer knew what I was doing. And I figured, this is probably the time I should start hiring people. Yeah. It was just complicated. This was back in 2002 where there were no dynamic websites. Everything was fairly static. Nothing was really social in any way. And it was just it was the hardest thing I could think of building at the time because every user is interacting with every other user and you're not feeding them static content. Plus I needed to learn ASP.NET, which at the time, there was a massive shift from one programming language to another, and I needed some way of learning or mastering it. And I really didn't like reading programming books, so I just went and built it. It took me about 2 weeks. Well, I was pretty familiar with databases and ASP and whatnot, so I had programming experience, and most of that stuff, it's not that complicated. It's a scripting language, so it's not like I was writing in C++ or something. It really doesn't take much to build a website. If you have any programming experience, it's fairly simple. No, I built my own from day one. So back in 2000, 2 or 3 weeks after I started this site, I just started recording every 5 minutes all the core metrics in the system. Because unlike Google Analytics or all these third-party tools, what is really important for us is that every user affects every other user's experience. So if you send a message to someone on the site, that brings someone else back. So that's what we have to measure. I don't really care about total page views or some of these other metrics, because they don't tell you the health of the business. And then if you screw something up, somewhere in the system, you have no idea to know what it was. So if something went down 2% or something went up 3%, you have no idea why or how. So everything we tracked was so that if we did do something on the website and it was a positive change, we could go and say, hey, we need to do more of that, or hey, we really got to stop, this is not a good idea. We're in 4 or 5 languages. So the biggest ones are US, UK, Canada, Australia, Brazil, Spain, France, Germany. I don't know, there's a bunch of others. But those are the main ones. And then I think we'll stick with those countries for now and see what happens, because as I said, there's still this massive transition in the industry between web and mobile, and different countries are making that transition at different rates. So, France and well, maybe not France anymore. Most of them are still at 60, 70, 80% web, whereas North America is, 10, 20% web. Yep.
What are some of the things that you've learned to get a higher conversion on your sign-up page, considering you have 60,000 people signing up every day?
That's a difficult one. So only half the users sign up on day one. So many of them come to the site, come back later. So you can do split A/B testing, which is normally how you'd say, someone comes to the sign-up page. If they, depending on what they see, like sometimes you change the font color, you can change the text sizes, you can get a 2, 3, 4% delta in sign-ups. So basically when you do split A/B testing to optimize landing pages, you just test absolutely everything. And sometimes if you get a 5-10% gain, all of a sudden you have a viable business. In other cases, it wouldn't be. So we treat it like we treat the rest of the business, where we just absolutely test everything. But the problem with sign-up pages is because you don't have a unique identifier for the user, it's really hard to tell if that user just came back 50 times or they were there once. So your ability to measure the conversion rate accurately is difficult.
So what are some of the things that you have learned from doing that?
The font sizes, the position of the buttons, like have everything, like the form center of the page, have large calls to actions, talk about the benefits. It's basically, what I would do is if you're in an industry, look at your industry, look at what the top 10 competitors' landing pages are like, and copy them and then test them. And if it works better, take the best elements of them, or mix it, or make a hybrid. So what AdSense is, I don't know if you've heard of AdWords, but you can go, any business owner can go onto Google AdWords, and they can say, I'll bid $5 for anyone that bids on or I'll bid $1 for anyone that clicks on the word online dating. So what happens is Google displays these ads on the Google website, but they also display them across the entire internet. So places like Plentyoffish would show ads related to online dating or related to whatever. Like there's just a million ads we display every day, or billions of ads. And yeah, that's how it makes money. It was a lot bigger back in the day. It's not so important now because, as I said, most of our traffic has moved to mobile, and that's more about, we have optional subscriptions. We have a tiny bit of advertising. But it really depends on where your traffic is. And many different industries have different rates. Like, so let's say you're in the legal profession. They'll pay you $5, $6 if someone clicks on an ad. If you're talking about music lyrics, they'll pay you 3 cents. So it really depends on what business you're in. Will make it viable. So all the other sites had traffic coming in, but really the key is that you have to make the site go viral. You have to make people talk and tell their friends they should use it. And that is about giving them what they want. So if no one's successful on your site, no one's going to use it. So yes, there was 18 or 20,000 different sites that we compete with, but at the end of the day, if you go on the site, you message someone, you get a reply, and you go on a date, that is the best kind of marketing you will ever have. And online marketing through Google and through most of these avenues just doesn't reach the mass market. Like you don't have a captive audience. So you've really got to get the virality down. And you'll notice all of the major big internet sites, it's all about virality. It really depends on what your use case is. For us, it has to be native. So something like 95% of messages are answered within 10 seconds through push notifications. So if your app, or if you have a mobile website, you're not going to have push notifications on it. So for us, that is the killer use case. We can't move away from it. And we also have things like you can send audio messages to people. So you can use the phone to record audio messages and send it. So you can't do that through a website.
So you built apps?
Yes.
Okay, so it's app-centric.
Yes, but it depends on the use case. So if you need those features, then yes, you must go native. But if you don't need any of that, you don't need to.
The other part of this question is, when you started off, it was an even playing field. I believe it's this week the FCA is trying to push through some legislation that would allow for a fast lane on the internet for those that can afford to pay for faster downloads, faster bandwidth. Do you think that would affect remote space? So if you were starting off today as an entrepreneur to find yourself you wouldn't have a chance against the big guys because now they would dominate and they will pay the faster. Do you think that you're already in a position where you can pay
Well, look. Something like Netflix accounts for 30% of Canadian internet traffic at peak. For us, we don't use that much traffic, so I don't think it's too much of a problem for us. But a greater concern is companies like Apple and Google and others erecting a toll booth on the internet, where if you take payments through an iPhone app, you have to give Apple 30%. Whereas on the web, you have to pay no one anything. So, everyone is trying to get a piece. Everyone is trying to get their fingers in the cookie jar. And I think that's a greater concern.
Do you think a fast lane would eliminate, it wouldn't be a net neutrality there, that it would be hard for startups to start out?
It depends what you're doing. If you're doing anything with audio or video, you're going to have a lot of problems. Because the vast majority of the traffic, is audio and video, and that is huge. The small stuff that's 2K or less in size might not be. And we're talking specifically about the United States here, and who knows how that will shake out. Like the vote was this morning, and there's going to be another 6 or 7 months of wrangling back and forth. It wouldn't be good for us, put it that way, but it wouldn't be good for the internet. How it affects individual companies, I don't know.
Do you think it'll get through?
In some form. The guy was the head of the FCC was the head lobbyist for the communications, or the big telecoms. So the older generation, they all use mobile apps as well. So over the age of 50, more than half of our users are using mobile apps. And that continues to grow. And then like 10 or 15% of them are using the website on the phone. What matters most is utility. So if a user comes to your site and gets what they want, they will continue to use it and they will come back. And it drives intent, it drives intention. So you don't want a whole bunch of people who just sign up and, oh, I'm just here to check it out, what's it like? They're going to get flooded with messages, but they're not going to engage, they're not going to respond. We're in a unique case where what we have here is we have a community, and everyone is messaging each other. But depending on who gets messages when, how, where, and why, determines how quickly the community grows or if it doesn't grow at all. So, yeah, it's just really complicated. And I think we found the right balance. And I hate to mess with things that work. There's a lot of challenges with mobile. So, for instance, when everyone is on the web, everyone logs in on the web. Everyone uses the system in the same way. Everything is uniform. When you suddenly have a third of your user base on web, a third over here, whatever the distribution is, in each country it's different. But they use the site in different ways, and that makes modeling user behavior and predictability of user behavior incredibly difficult. So it makes it really difficult to predict, if I tweak this slightly, this is going to increase user growth. It becomes incredibly complicated to do things that make a large difference because you can't accurately measure it. Just go on a date.